Good evening, KZFR. This is Write.onair. Hopefully everyone is having a good night tonight. We have a very special guest with us here, one who has nurtured this show from the very get-go from a long time ago. It was not intended to rhyme, but it kind of did there. Lillie Alsky, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm alive. Hi, everybody.
This is true. She has submitted when my show needed submissions way back when I first started, when I didn't have people coming on the show on really any regular basis, and it was in its infancy and it needed help. And she kind of gave it a heartbeat and kept it going. So I really appreciate having you here for once, because this is going to be really cool.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate everybody that's listened to my poems, because that's really nice of you.
Yeah. And anyways, Brandon's here too. How you doing?
I'm doing perfectly great. I'm back because I love Lily's work. She's finally showed up, so I decided to come back for a show.
Yeah, it's gonna be a pretty cool one. This is laid back. I've known Lillie, I've known you since high school. It's been a while.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time, and as I said, you've kept the show going. So having you on the show is kind of a cool treat for me, because literally, like, you were one of the founders. Help me keep this thing going, which is really cool. And I've wanted you on the show for a while now, but it just never worked out in our schedules. So.
I know. I finally made it out here, so
Yes, she's
thanks.
over in Reno, so she's just a little ways away, but it seems like worlds away. She's crying right now.
I am. Sob face.
Yeah, so this is Write.onair, and for those of you who don't know, we take basically writers, any form of writing that they want to submit, via be it lyrics or prose or poetry or haikus, whatever you want to submit. And it's not a critique show. We're kind of here to just discuss and celebrate what you've put together. As I've said many times, which Brandon is familiar with, and he's going to roll his eyes at probably right now. So just imagine him rolling his eyes. We are the picture frame. You guys are the picture. And you guys give us the whole format of the show, and basically you guys have the show. So please do submit at, I'll let Brandon do this part.
Writing on air. Wow, it's been so long.
It's been a long time since you've said this. Okay, try this again, Brandon. Where can you submit to if you want to submit? You want me to say it?
Yes, because I
Okay.
can't remember. It's
All right.
been too long.
All right. I'm Brandon speaking right now. It's write.onair@gmail.com if you want to submit. He does his own show on Tuesdays, every Tuesday, which he should tell you about right now.
Yes, I host the Breakdown here every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. You can come and learn about everything. We take big ideas and we break them into bite-sized pieces. We've covered everything from physics to nuclear fission, and it's fun. Come learn. Come ask the question why and how.
Wow, those are all things I don't know anything about. And you guys are probably just like me, so please go ask that question and listen to a show.
Yes. But without further ado, I want to dive into your pieces, Lillie, because we have a limited amount of time, unfortunately, but I'm quite ready for these. So we have some lined up for us. I'm really ready for this.
Okay, I guess we're going to start with a relatively personal piece. It's
Yes.
called Card Unread, and let's go. I wanted him to walk me to my car, but never would I speak this. So here I am, alone with my music, on a road going 90, an ungodly hour, body given away, but my soul still lay in the back seat, wrapped with a bow on top, card unread.
That one, because you showed me this one in the past, and so I read it before, and it's a really gentle and haunting piece, I feel, whenever I listen to it.
My goal, I have somebody that I look up to who writes poetry. So my goal in writing this piece was to try to go for shorter, because I know I write a lot of lengthy poetry style. Sometimes I think you can capture the attention or get the feeling and make it more of a punch if there's less words used. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I like your longer stuff too, so I won't go one way or the other, but this one has, I think the choice to be brief on it was a solid choice for this piece, because it feels quick and rushed, kind of like the whole format of what's going on in the entire thing.
The whole experience. So, yeah.
What do you think, Brennan?
I think silence can speak volumes sometimes, and shorter can be better, and I think this is one that is short, sweet, and does leave you thinking.
I think we often get so caught up in today's culture, like the society that is absorbed in sex, I guess. You know, that's one of our biggest focuses, the casual moving on from one person to the next so easily. Sometimes you overlook the contents and you miss a lot of important details about a person, and we don't always we don't always catch the deep, detailed glimpses of another person's soul, and we don't always notice when other people don't see ours either. So this was my goal, to just pay attention to when I think somebody cares enough about me or not, as cheesy as that sounds.
This one's always like, I don't know, whenever I read your pieces, it always like, you do a really good job of evoking certain feelings and sentiments and stuff. And this one really kind of fills me with an uncomfortable longing, but also a little bit of sadness. It's a weird like flavor to have, especially when you're talking about like leaving the situation, a date that you've just been on or something. I wanted him to walk me to my car. I wanted more, but I wouldn't say it, and he missed it. And so now I'm going home listening to music, and that's it. And there's this weird, just wistful kind of just like, ugh, like you've been punched in the gut, but you haven't. It's just like it was about to happen, and it's gone.
Because we're always talking about how we want people to relate to us. You don't go on a date all the time, or you're not looking for a significant other that doesn't see you. But I think it's so true. So often, none of us is unwrapped, and maybe it's our own inability to express ourselves, or maybe it's just the way the culture is tending to go these days. It's hard to say. But that's my commentary on it.
Yeah.
I'm sad.
I also like the choice too to use like a present wrapped with a bow on top, card in red, because there's a lot of ways you could have said that we want to be opened up and understood and stuff. The present is a cool one, and in my opinion, like it's a choice, artistic choice, but also like a revealing choice of you in some regards, because I'm assuming this piece is kind of about a personal experience, in the sense that you think you are a gift, because you are. And I like that sentiment makes a nice, almost like I don't want to say like a positive note, but it ends with a different feeling than the rest of the piece, and I like that. Like this, hey, I want to be unwrapped, I want to be known, I want to be understood, and I'm almost hopeful because I'm still here, I'm there, and I like that.
There's more than that, though, because seeing yourself as a gift is empowering. It's not just here's this, here's a nice present. It's, I'm good enough to be a gift. And if you can't take the time to see that about me, then, maybe just reconsider your choices. For everybody out there listening, make sure you're presenting yourself as a gift. You deserve it.
You do. This is also an inspirational show and motivational show.
Oh,
This specific one. The rest of the show is all terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, go ahead.
Any thoughts, Brendan? I'm going to put him on the spot here.
I love short pieces that you can read into, and sometimes we've also talked about some other short pieces that we don't like how much people read into them, but I love the fact that there's a voice to your work. You can hear someone reading the piece, you can hear the emotion, you can hear the person behind it, and I really like that, and I really like that even though this is short, you can feel that it's sad, and you can feel this kind of lonely drive, and you can really picture it. There's lots of imagery packed in here with so little.
Thank you. Modern day loneliness, sitting alone in your car wishing you weren't, something like that. But thank you.
Way to start off the show.
Yeah, there we go. That's a good start.
I'm ready. As I've said, we've had your pieces on before, and a lot of times many times actually, I've wanted you to be here to discuss these, because you get pieces like this that have a clear voice that I know you as, because I've been friends with you forever, but people who don't know you, this is awesome because they get to hear what you sound like. And like I said, you have been pretty much the base for this show. So this is the first time we get to hear your thoughts and your expressions and your feelings on your pieces, and this is cool. So,
thank you. I don't think I'm all as chalked up as you say I am, but
you are right now.
Thank you.
Chalking me up.
Thank you. Thank you.
What do we have next?
Do you want to go with this one or the other one?
Let's jump to. I want to do childhood next.
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
So
and then we'll come back. I think we're gonna have time. I think we'll be all right to do all three, but I think I want to for sure hit this one.
Perfect. So I guess as a background, since I'm here, I'm from a family that was broken, a divorced family. And I wrote this piece for my brother specifically. So the word you is addressing him. You don't really have to know that, but there you go.
Useful.
So again, it's called Childhood. A tan house bound in chain link, windows, glassy barricades. Our childhood fruit trees, the ones you could climb, I always fell. Sunshine causing freckles of stars, scattering into the nooks and crannies of our skin. The garden, intricate, delicate flowers hailing the sky. I loved the purple roses, thought the white ones were boring. I stepped on their thorns, yanked them from the tender skin. Crimson oozed out. Blood, my least favorite colored rose. The house was packaged in a fence, childhood as wide as the yard, as tall as the heavens. I saw them kiss once, in the shadows skirting the hallway. His mustache intermingled, tickled, became a part of her upper lip. "You," you said. "You," I said. The glassy windows were magical. They didn't let the sunlight in. It was dark inside the house, a whimsy of silhouettes and secrets, undulating just underneath the demons that were my friends until you started pulling your hair out. I saw your bald spots. I didn't like them. I was scared of the monsters. My best friends were stuffed animals, and we would all curl up, clutch our heads, cover our ears until we didn't have to hear them yelling, and when we plugged our noses, even the smell of rotting love could dissipate. And I would melt away into the Amazon, the Sahara, into far away, into the imaginary worlds where I could fly, where the flowers were always purple and violet and pink and blue, and they were never blood red. I would laugh and dance and sing. And I left you alone there. That room juxtaposed the rest of the house. She said it's full of evil, his secrets and sins lathered on the walls, toxic enough to poison the air, to poison me. She said, "Don't go in there," and my hands clutched my pink striped hula hoop, and I go in and I tell him stories and sing to him, and he always listened. Eyes, glassy barricades that were magical. They didn't let the light in. He called me Sugar Plum and told me stories. He said he loved me. She cried and only you could hug her, a tremelled soul older than a boy, only a boy. And you said it was full of evil. You said, "Don't go in there." You were taller than me, older, and I knew you cried alone at night to the plastic stars glued on the ceiling, and I stopped going in there. I sat alone in my room instead, violent wisps of angry sound ululate, crashing and banging. Everything was breaking. I closed my eyes into a wrinkled face, and I thought about all the places I see on TV. I thought of worlds with magical powers, with love, with happiness. I left you alone again. For Bang Para. Always strong, always my savior. Thank you.
Go ahead, Brendan. We both just kind of sat here and absorbed that for a second, so you want to say?
Well, there's so much to this piece. I love the beginning of this piece because I write myself, and I write, I guess, what I would call like a lot of hyper realism. And I love the beginning of this because there's this section that just stands out to me because it describes childhood and the way a child sees the world. How childhood was fenced in, but as tall as the sky. That it was as big as you could want it to be because that was your world. The world was what was in the fence, but what was in the fence was far bigger than it could ever seem to be by normal eyes. A child sees a fenced garden and it's a jungle, it's the world, it's huge and magical, and there's so much in here that describes the magic that a child can see, but also the terrors that a child can imagine, and that is wonderful and frightening and sad. And
it's very sad. There's so much about childhood that is innocent because you look at it, as a child, you have inexperienced eyes. You don't know how to process the things you're seeing. So there's so much hopes and dreams and expectations, but it can be tainted so quickly when interwoven with negative implications or backgrounds or other stuff that just goes wrong. It's nobody's fault, but it's sad to look at.
Yeah, there's two lines that whenever I read this piece, and Brandon singled out one of them, which I like a lot too, which is the childhood as wide as the yard, but I can't remember exactly how you said that.
Childhood as wide as the yard, as tall as the heavens.
Yes, yeah, that line. Whenever I hear that, I'm just like that. Yeah, because I had the same thing, fenced in, but there was no limits within those walls, essentially. And the other one, which is of a different feel to it, I will say, is the rotting love line. Because I same kind of not the same, but a similar background situation as far as family goes with divorced parents and stuff. And you watch love turn from love to other things, essentially. And that line really has when you think of descriptions of love, you think like, oh, just sweet and blissful and relaxing. And rotting love puts just a very weird, uncomfortable spin on it that makes sense. I think is accurate for the situation, and it's not a flavor I like, but it's a very prominent, distinct flavor within this piece, and it's interesting watching this kind of journey through this story that you paint for us, because it goes from this whimsical, just very childlike enjoyment for a while, like there's just this we're stepping on thorns, we're yanking through our tender skin, which is not necessarily bad, you're just kind of getting things out because you're running around, you're doing child things, it's fun. And then it kind of bleeds into the more like, okay, well, the adult themes start coming in, because there are adult themes happening that are uncomfortable for children, that aren't good, things break down within the household. And watching this is like a really, it's uncomfortable the whole way through, or at least when it makes that change, because it hurts, because you're realizing you're looking like you're sitting next to a child watching something turn into something that it wasn't before, like childhood disappearing. So whenever I read this piece, I kind of like, it's like watching smoke blow through wind. It's really concentrated at first, and then it just kind of dissipates, and it's hard to read, which makes it, in my opinion, one of my favorite pieces, and which is why I wanted to single this out for the second one, because it is you have a real good way of painting something in so many different shades and different feelings and emotions with words that is just phenomenal, which is why I really wanted to single out this piece.
Thank you. I tried really hard to play up some metaphors just throughout it. I think sometimes, and I say this now that I'm older, but as a kid, of course, I didn't notice, but I think when people go through divorces, it's really sad how broken they get inside. So, like, the house was always kind of gloomy because the shutters are closed, but so is my dad's soul, for example, in this, like, the light couldn't get into him either. It couldn't reach him anymore. And it's just hard. It's really hard when adults end up having to fight and things can't be easy.
And I wanted to pull from you a little bit too, because it's very relevant and very kind of a part that I don't want to miss in this piece. Talk a little bit about your brother.
Sorry, yeah. His nickname is Vongpara. It's terrible pronunciation of the Khmer word for big brother, and in high school, I lived with a Khmer family, so that's why I call him that. He was the older one, and I think he was always the one subjected to a lot more stress. So my highlight of this poem is I was always running away from these problems. I would just run off to Sahara or some fun place in my head and imagine Animal Planet and pretend like I was there, or just play with the animals outside. But my brother was the one that was subjected to a lot of stress and a lot more pressure. And that's why I have the line recurring, and I left you alone again, because I did leave him alone a lot with that experience. I'm the type of person that runs away, I guess. And I just wanted to thank him, even though this is a really sad, reflective piece. It was supposed to be a thank you poem.
I think it is. I mean, if you had tried to play it as something different, I think it wouldn't have done it justice. I think painting it how it was for you when you're younger is a treat for us to read, and a treat's a weird word to use there, but I mean that it is engaging for us to read. But I think it means much more to him when he reads it, because it's honest and it's from an identity that he's familiar with, from a past he's familiar with. So in my mind, when I read this, it was really just amazing to see, because it was perfect, and it was for him, which was cool. It was like watching like a conversation between a sister and a brother, and I wasn't part of it, but I was able to take part in it. That was what makes this like such a phenomenal piece, because it paints such a huge story. There's so much complexity inside of this, and it's a thank you letter, which is cool. Like that's neat.
Thank you.
I wanted to single this one out, especially. We have 3 pieces here, and I was like, we have to hit this one. But any other words on this one? We liked it.
Yep. Good times.
I want to hit your last one, because I think we have enough time to hit it. I think
Okay.
we should hit all
So
of them.
the last one, am I allowed to share the background on that? Do you care?
As much as you want. It's fine.
So Kevin is actually a player in this poem.
Yeah.
We've known each other since high school, and this is kind of about a friend that we had. It's called A Living Sentiment. I was at a funeral with my high school lunchtime buddies. The quiet boy, who is good at cards, a person I saw every day, lay in a casket, a bullet in his skull. He was discovered by his mom. We listened to his favorite songs on the drive there, and when we arrived, I stood numb, stared at a potted plant, thought about why some people want to die and why some people want to kill. I wondered where I fit. She was so pretty and nice, my friend who had a high school lunchtime romance with one of the boys in black. We'd come here in his beat-up pickup. She said, You and I cannot cry. You understand? For his sake, we shouldn't cry. An expression of warmth and love that I couldn't begin to comprehend. I obliged and was stoic as I learned about a friend while he lay dead and let his loved ones tell stories he couldn't have told me. An eerie ride home, and it was done, the funeral and the life of a boy. I have lingering thoughts. A dead boy, a dead love, as most high school lovers do end, and only one feeling remains from it all, a misguided, pure, gentle act of kindness and respect. The gift of a lover who is now married to someone else. She and I don't talk anymore, and still she gives me such an odd feeling. She cared enough to suppress herself, a sentiment that has transcended both life and love. It's a little more philosophical, and I've noticed from my friends they don't tend to like the philosophical pieces. But, do with it as you will.
I've known Kevin for a long time, so I know what this piece is about, and this was a very sad time in many of our lives, and all I can say is that this tries to have a somewhat calm, almost beautiful moment in a very, very dark place.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. My goal in this was just thinking about the kind of respect one individual can have for another because, this girl, obviously she was sad too that her friend died, but she knew that her sadness could not compete with the other person's sadness in a lot of regards. So her goal was to hide that so that person could be more expressive. I don't know if the ideology is right, but I think honestly the intention is one of the most beautiful intentions I've ever seen in my life. It was absolutely a beautiful moment in such a sad time, of course, absolutely.
Yeah, to give the context and like the background, she hands me the paper, but I have this like pretty well ingrained in my head. I know it well. I had a close friend that took his own life, and so she's commenting. And one thing, I'll back up and say this: I've known Lillie for a long time, and one of the reasons why I really like her writing, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, is you make sense of the world through your writing a lot, and so you get to a really nice sense of, as Brandon said earlier, her voice specifically, of what she is seeing and how it's processed within her, which is a really engaging and really informative look on existence, I think, in a lot of ways, and I identify with it. So this piece is talking about obviously the funeral that happened, and I was dating a girl at the time, and again, correct me on if anything's off on this, but dating a girl at the time, and she was at the funeral, and I spoke at the funeral, and she was saying, I don't want to cry, so that way we can be strong for him, which is the form of love that she's talking about here, the gift of a lover, all this stuff, which is a really intense, kind thing to do, suppression of oneself for someone else. It's a powerful thing. So that's what this piece is kind of discussing.
Right. It's so transcendent, though. The idea that such a good intention can surpass even the love. They're not together anymore. In case you're wondering about Kevin's love life, just ask me. I'll let you know everything.
Oh, God.
But those two are not together anymore. And I think it's just beautiful that such a good intention can still linger on in our hearts and minds, even when the love is dead or even when a person is dead. Life is hard, but it can be beautiful if you choose to look at it that way, I suppose.
We'll have more pieces of Lillie's on the show here and there throughout the rest of the time I do this. And I'll try to emphasize these points too, because she does a good job of finding the silver lining, I think. Even if the pieces are dark and they're to get out a feeling or something like that, I think it always kind of comes around to the core of there is some encouragement there for everyone if they look enough, it's there, which I have always loved about your writing. So.
Oh, thank you. I don't feel very encouraging. Anybody else can agree with me that my poems are typically morbid. I mean, one of those was about, a sexual relationship not going well for me and my heart hurting. Another was about childhood and how hard it is with divorce. And the other one was about a friend that died in high school. Real positive stuff here, people.
Okay, so maybe I read into them, but also you could counter and say it was about, the gift of a lover and possibly, being wrapped as a present. That was a very skeptical look in her eyes, and I loved it. are you gonna say, Brandon?
What do you want to say?
Lily, have you listened to the show? About 80% of what gets submitted is dark and morbid because people write about pain to get through it.
That's a very good point. It's so relevant. So everybody who's listening out there, you've got pain. You should probably write it down and submit it to this show. I'm just saying. What was that email, Brandon?
Yeah. Do you remember, Brandon? Can you put you on the spot now?
Write.onair@gmail.com. writ.onair@gmail.com.
Wait, so there's not an E in
Remembers
that?
now. Oh, say it. Wait, one more time. Here we go.
So bad. write.onair@gmail.com.
Perfect. That's correct. Use
All
the second
right.
one, not the first.
So for everybody having an existential crisis out there,
Yeah, we're gonna
you
get
write that email
We're
down.
gonna get a flood of emails to the wrong email. write.onair@gmail.com. You can submit to us. And Lily, we have a couple minutes left here, and I wanted to put you on the spot too because I can and I will.
Oh, dear Lord.
What advice? And I like this question a lot, so it's a pretty staple one. And you can take it where you want it. What advice would you give someone who wants to write something that is from a deep personal spot?
Ooh, I think it's about being in tune with your feelings. So sometimes you can get really caught up in the surroundings around you. So maybe take some time to distance yourself from others. Just take a moment, take a breather, have a good glass of tea. You don't have to do that part, but then just reflect and then just write. I don't usually have like a system in how I go about it, but if you know you're feeling bad, it's like if you eat something bad and you feel sick. It's the same exact thing, but for your soul in a way. If you're feeling sick, sit down and explore the words your heart has to say. Language is the only way we're going to be able to communicate anything that we feel in this world, so you may as well explore it while you have that feeling. You never know what kind of beautiful, inspirational words can be born from that.
And as Brandon has said, it's a form of therapy in a lot of ways. It lets you kind of keep things flowing and gets things out of your system and lets you look at them afterwards, because you can write down these words in this really intense spot and then reread them later and revisit that spot again, or come back to them as a memory. You can get them out of yourself. So I think a lot of your pieces, Lily, do a fantastic job of kind of putting a stamp, like a time stamp of what happened. You put it there, it's recorded, and then you can visit that instantly, like rewatching a movie or coming back and looking at a painting.
It's so true. Or like listening to a song. You may as well preserve the moments in your life, because even if they're hard, it's often the difficult moments that make us unique individuals or more empathetic individuals as well. So preserving those feelings to look back on. You only have one life. From 2013 YOLO. So preserve those feelings, people.
That's it. This show's not getting aired now.
Oh, shoot.
Lily, we have a couple minutes left, and so I'm going to take the rest of it because I want to say a few things.
Fine.
I wanted to say thank you for being part of the show since the beginning. I'm pretty sure you were part of the second show I did. And the first show I think you knew about, tuned into, and all that stuff. But this show could not have gotten to where it was if I didn't have you. You specifically just giving me feedback, encouragement all the way through, and I cannot express how cool this is to have you on the show for once and talking about your pieces and doing justice to them and actually exploring the themes you wanted and reading them in your voice, because that's a cool experience for me personally, because like I said, you've been a part of my life for a long time. You're one of my closest friends, and having someone on the show that means so much is always fun. So I appreciate it.
Aw, thank you. Also, that means that he needs more people to submit pieces. Otherwise, I have to write them. So,
True.
Just kidding. No, thank you so much. That's really nice of you.
Yeah, but man, I wish we had another half hour to do work. But this is it. This is it, guys. So I hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks, Lily, for being here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. Catch you later, Brandon.
Have a wonderful evening, everybody.